I grabbed a candy cane wreath frame and some deco mesh from nixseasonaldecor.com, and we're going to turn it into something really unique. We're going to begin by assembling our candy cane. They do come in 2 pieces, so we're going to just place the top into the bottom like this. And to keep it from sliding out, I'm going to take a zip tie and secure it. And now it's time to work in some deco mesh. So you can find all of the products we're using today from nixseasonaldecor.com. First thing we're going to do is run out a length and just gather it together by folding it over and create a little loop. After doing that, we're going to place that loop between one set of those twist ties and just twist it secure. And we'll just continue gathering out about 10-inch pieces and working it into the twists. And it doesn't matter where you start or where you finish. We just want to make sure every twist gets some mesh. So I'm going to start around the outside and then work my way on the inside. Now that we're at our last twist, we're going to just continue working the same mesh towards the inside. We're not going to need to cut it or do anything special. We're going to just take it, flip it over, and start working it in. And now that every piece has a piece of deco mesh, we're going to just take whatever mesh we have left over and start filling in even more. That way this wreath is really nice and full. And once you get to your last piece, we can just take it, gather it, and work it into one final twist. Now I have some ribbon, and you can find all different colors from our website, and we're going to cut pieces about 10 to 12 inches across. Now what we can do is we can take a few pieces of ribbon, line them up, and dovetail. And if you've never dovetailed before, take your pair of scissors, cut from the middle out towards the wired edge at an angle towards the wire, and it creates a beautiful finishing edge for your ribbon. And I also love using the same ribbon in different widths, so we're going to also do the same thing with a 1.5 inch ribbon. Now we can take our ribbons and we're going to just place them into the twist ties. We're going to do this every few inches. Place your piece of ribbon inside. And if you are new to designing, look at how much better the ends of those ribbons look when they're dovetailed. So always make sure you go that extra mile and dovetail your ribbons. Now we're going to take some pipe cleaners, and all we're going to do is curl these up to create some legs. Now we're going to add a little bit of hot glue on the end and poke this right into the deco mesh. And we'll take another one and we'll place it down below. So I'm just going to take my snips and cut off the red because we're actually going to work in some ornaments as the eyes. And now I have these ornaments. These we used for a Halloween project here on Hometalk. Add a little bit of hot glue and work them in as eyes. And you might just want to hold them for a minute or two to keep them in place. And here is how it turned out, you guys, and I absolutely love how cute this is. I think this would make a great back-to-school or teacher's gift. This would make a great gift for any friends and family. Very inexpensive and a lot of fun to create. So what we have here is just a poster board from the dollar store. It is important that you pick out one of those thicker ones that are kind of made of that styrofoam texture instead of those kind of just posters where you can kind of roll them up. So today we're going to make a butterfly, and it doesn't have to be perfect. And the reason for that is you're going to cover it with flowers anyway. So to cut this out, we're just going to use one of our box cutters. This is what we use to open up supply boxes. You are going to want to make sure that you have a nice sharp blade, and then just follow out, that outline. So it is important to have that outline, or else you're going to have a very difficult time figuring out where to cut. So here we have our butterfly cut out. As you can tell, it's not perfect. So to cover it up, we're actually going to use these beautiful tulips, and we have all of these in stock as well as other colors at nixseasonaldecor.com. So to pop them off, we're just going to simply pull them right out. We're not going to use the greenery for this, so feel free to save this greenery for another project. So just pull them right off, nice and easy. So I'm just going to apply some hot glue, and this tool is a lifesaver. Trust me, you guys, if you're still using a glue skillet, make the switch over to a glue pot. And all we're going to do is just take those flowers and just hot glue them on. So you're not going to see the stems in the end. They're going to be covered up. You don't want to do too much because the glue will solidify before you have the chance to put them on. And if that's the case, just come back in with more glue. It's not a big concern. And you can do as many colors as you want. If you want it to work in 3 or 4 colors, or if you're designing this for a little kid's room, or somebody that loves butterflies, just choose the color that you think they'd like the best. So now we can switch over to our next color, and I think this is turning out really cute so far. So the next color we're going to deal with is going to be the hot pink, and I think this is going to add a nice contrast but not make it too colorful, because I think just keeping it pinks will look really nice. So we'll do the same process, just pop the tops right off, and then we can work them in. So let's break down 3 of these to start. And I want to do these in opposite directions, because they're separate wings and they should face in the different directions. So we'll start with the hot pink facing downwards, and then somewhere in this region we can have them meet up. Take our end piece, place it there. See how we have that little defined spot where the 2 wings meet? Like that. So they're all meeting up and there's no gaps. So do the same thing on the other side now. Okay, time to create our body. So the color tulip we're going to use, like I mentioned earlier, I think white will add a nice look. So we'll just work in these white ones and we'll do the same exact process. We're going to just take 2 at a time and create a little body. So I actually want to elongate the body a little bit. So to do that, we'll take some hot glue on just one tulip and place it sticking out. So we placed 1 tulip on either end, and now we're going to work in a few more to the sides. That way we have the widest portion to be towards the middle. And we're going to do a similar thing as to what we did with the darker pink tulips, where we're going to have some sticking out upwards and downwards, and in the middle we want them to meet like we did here. And while the glue's still hot, you can just fluff them out a little bit. So there's our butterfly. You can either have it facing like this or the other direction. I don't think it's really going to be noticeable which way is up and down. So now let's work in the antennas, and then I'll show you how to create a hanger. So we also have these poppies in stock in a bunch of colors, and I'm going to be using these flower heads a little later on today, but I don't need the entirety of the stems. So I love how fuzzy they are. They actually remind me of real poppies, and we're going to turn these into antenna. So again, I don't need the full length of stems, so we'll just snip 2 blooms off. And antennas aren't going to stick straight out like that, are they? So what we're going to do then is we're going to take them and we're going to just curl them up around our finger. Once you do that, we can take it then, lift up that tulip, or place it on the side, whatever's easiest. And to create a hanger, I mean, of course the back isn't going to be perfect. You know, I did tear a little bit of the paper off, and it's not going to matter. But all I'm going to do is I'm going to take a pipe cleaner, twist it secure, and then I like to just twist it even more so to make sure it's not going anywhere. Take that stick of glue, apply a generous amount, and then take your pipe cleaner. So I'm going to be a little bit more particular and make sure that that pipe cleaner doesn't go any further past the actual frame. Then you can just come back in with a little length of ribbon. All I'm doing is I'm just cutting some of the ribbon we have, and it's already secured. So we'll give that a minute to harden up, and then we can show you the finished product. Okay, and here is the finished butterfly in all its glory, and I think it turned out so cute, and it was so simple to make. And as I said earlier, don't be so picky about, tracing an outline. If it's not perfect, in the end, the way you position your flowers will take any imperfections away. I grabbed a ladle from my kitchen and a dollar store plastic pot. We're going to start by hot gluing our ladle directly to the container. So I'm going to use my glue skillet. Feel free to use a glue gun, but I'm just going to take a scrap floral stem and apply a very generous amount of hot glue to the back side of this ladle. And then just place it right on the plastic. Now that the glue is hardened, we're going to come back in with even more hot glue on the base of our ladle. So apply a generous amount. If it drips on your tray, that is a-okay. And the bottom part is actually a cake stand that I got on clearance. So now we're going to just hold this here for a minute while it hardens up. And with this pot being lightweight plastic, it'll hold up just fine. Now we have some flowers, and you can find all sorts of flowers and greenery from nixseasonaldecor.com. And what we're going to do is snip off each flower stem individually. So now that we've removed our flowers, what we're going to do is take them, dip them into our glue skillet, and start gluing them right to the ladle. So after dipping them in your glue skillet, apply a generous amount of hot glue, and then what you can start doing is gluing it right to the handle of your ladle. Now we still have a few flowers left from those 2 sprays we broke down, and we're just going to work them right into the ladle. So of course you can come back in with a little brick of foam, but with this being displayed in my kitchen, I don't think we need to waste any extra materials or extra money by working in any foam. The ladle does a great job of keeping the hot glue in place. So we're just going to continue filling in. Now we're going to just continue working in even more beautiful flowers. And look at how pretty this looks with the purple and different shades against the green. But let's work in a little bit more green. And feel free to use a plastic bowl that you might already have in your cupboard. So many different ways of creating this beautiful effect. But let's snip down these individually again. So I always recommend breaking apart your sprays. That way you can stretch your dollar and you're not having to use a whole bunch of sprays, which in return would cost you a ton of money. So we'll just dip these in our glue skillet and pepper them in throughout. And we'll place one more there, and our final spray we'll tuck up top. And here is how it turned out, and I think it turned out so cute. So we used a container, a green container from the dollar store, a few flowers that only cost a couple dollars, an old ladle that I've had in my kitchen for years, and I'm excited about an upgrade for that, and a clearance pie tray or cake stand, whatever you want to call it. You can use whatever container you have on hand as well. So for about $5 or $6, we created a really pretty arrangement, and I love that it looks like the flowers are spilling out of the container. Thank you all so much for watching. You can do this in any color combo, and I think it would be beautiful to work for any season and holiday as well. So I'm Nick Kretikos of Nick's Seasonal Decor, and you're watching me on Hometalk. See you in the next episode.